regulates blood sugar or to efficiently use the insulin it produces. Statistics indicate that diabetes, which is categorized into type 1 and 2, is the sixth leading cause of death in lower and middle-income countries than in the high-income ones. If not well controlled, diabetes may cause blindness, kidney failure, and lead to limb amputation, in addition to other long-term consequences. Diabetes is a growing concern in Nigeria with all its resultant effects. That's our focus on this edition of Health Options. Our complementary segments, Nature's Corner and Health Tips, will avail you the opportunity to get informed on how to manage diabetes the natural way. Tips on prevention, management, and of course, the treatment options, where you will even get to see the latest technology that would enable you live with diabetes without the usual complications associated with the disease. All these if you invest your time with us. This is Health Options, and before we get down to our discussion, we take this background report on one major complication of diabetes that has now kept health experts on their toes: diabetic foot. The report is put together by Chidemma in the BC.
Diabetes, an uncommunicable disease, is described by health experts as a silent killer. More than 425 million people in the world are said to be diabetic, with projections that by 2045, about 624 million people will be diabetic, a huge number of them from developing countries. At present, Nigeria has about 5 million diabetic patients, with children and young adults constituting a meaningful percentage of that number. This disease, which is of type 1, 2, and gestational, is prevalent in urban areas where sedentary lifestyle thrives.
Diabetes is when a person has a chronically elevated blood sugar. People take a lot of calories, a lot of fatty food, a lot of carbonated drinks, and then things like alcohol and smoking also increase the risk of people having diabetes. Reduction in physical activity also increases the prevalence of diabetes.
If you have a family history and you are overweight, then the risk factors of getting diabetes becomes more.
When undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, or poorly managed, complications such as renal failure, blindness, heart diseases, and foot wound or ulcer set in. Every 20 seconds, a diabetic patient with foot wound or ulcer is amputated. However, all hope is not lost, as there are now cost-effective treatment options proven to be efficacious in stemming the rise of amputation.
A lot of simple dressings like rolled foam, wrapped up in adhesive and then bandaged on. And then we can use adhesive felt, which we can put inside shoes. Then we can also use shoe modifications. So you take a normal running shoe or trainer and you get the shoemaker to add a thick sole underneath just at the back.
Proper cleaning of the wound needs to be done. Proper ways to reduce pressure on the wound. So that can be done without much expensive things. Even crutches can be used. This paraffin gauzes which are available, a number of hydrogel ointments are available which are not very expensive.
We will, in fact, make sure that we go beyond checking for diabetes at teaching hospital. We want to mainstream it at primary care level.
To checkmate the increasing cases of diabetes in Nigeria, a legislation to regulate sale and consumption of high sugary products is underway, and no better personality to give this piece of information than he who wears the shoes and knows where it pinches.
I am now a controlled diabetes mellitus patient. The bill has been read for the first time, and it has equally been read a second time, now at a committee level for public hearing.
Prevention, they say, is better than cure. The way to go, health professionals say, is constant blood sugar testing and imbibing healthy lifestyle.
Many thanks, Chindama, for that background report. In the studio to take us through the discussion is Professor Felicia Anuma. She is a consultant endocrinologist. Glad to have you again on Health Options, Professor Anuma.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so diabetes. Diabetes, at the main mention of diabetes these days, one's mind goes beyond adults because even the younger ones, are coming down with diabetes, which made it even a bigger source of concern. Can we take it up from there?
Well, diabetes is simply a clinical condition where the body loses the ability to utilize glucose. It's as simple as that. There is a chemical we have in our body produced by the pancreas called insulin. It helps us to utilize everything we eat as a source of energy and nutrition. So for one reason or the other, when it is not sufficient or is totally absent, then there is problem. For example, in type 1 diabetes, insulin is totally absent. So, and the only way to manage it is to give what is not there, and that is insulin. But the type 2 diabetes, we can manage with tablets for a while, and then before we start with insulin. Usually, before a patient presents with type 1 diabetes, insulin is totally gone. But in type 2 diabetes, they still have about 40% reserve that can carry them for a while before it gets, totally exhausted. Diabetes is a pandemic in the world right now. In 2017, there were 425 million people with diabetes in the world, and the projection for 2045 is that we'll have more than 600 million people. But the concern with these figures is that 80% of the expected increase is going to occur in developing countries like Nigeria. What's happened to us in Nigeria is we have left the traditional healthy way of living to the civilized, unhealthy way. We have civilized everything about us. So we began to acquire all the diseases of civilization. So diabetes is a disease of civilization.
We know that it's a global problem, but the major worry now has to do with complications arising from diabetes, because we know that, in fact, someone had even told me that, someone in a Nigerian diasporan who lives in the US said he had never seen anybody coming up or developing complications from diabetes, especially where the diabetes foot is concerned, not to talk of amputation. Why is it happening in our part of the world? Why has it become so common?
Well, diabetes is a silent disease until complications. Yes. Blood sugar can be high because the individual is not feeling anything, does not know, but unfortunately is causing quiet damages inside. So diabetes has all manner of complications, like you have said, affects the eyes, the brain, the heart, the nerves, the blood vessels, the kidneys, and so on. So you have, when there is nerve damage and blood vessel damage because of diabetes, the very first place to affect is the legs. And we find patients coming for the first time with terrible wound and gangrene of the foot, and they don't even know that they have diabetes. So it is the complication with the greatest economic consequence in people with diabetes, and that's the diabetic foot. And the reason for diabetic foot is when there is nerve damage, there is blood vessel damage, the skin is fragile. The skin is now, very liable to injuries. And then infection comes, and that is the beginning of a diabetic foot. And in our environment, people don't even come to us early. They do all manner of home remedies from one chemist to another, and eventually they land in the hospital. And when they come, most of the time, the only option we have is amputation. Diabetic foot is a very serious problem in Nigeria, because when you ask endocrinologists in all the teaching hospitals in this country, including myself, 50% of the patients we have in our units all the time, they are there because of foot problems. And as simple as pedicure in the salon actually can lead to an amputation. As simple as buying a new shoe can lead to an amputation or even death.
So it's good to know that endocrinologists, within the African sub-region decided to take the bull by the horn. And you're talking about treatment options and all of that. What are we talking about here?
Well, we are just concluding a meeting now of the Pan-African Diabetes Foot Study Group. and we joined it with an advanced training to build capacity for health care providers in Nigeria, particularly the FCT, to be able to provide preventive care for patients, and even when patients have problems with the feet, to be able to manage them properly. We had representation from about 16 countries who came to brainstorm, experts, who came to brainstorm on this. The project is in collaboration with the World Diabetes Foundation, and what we are doing is we selected 20 government hospitals in the FCT and its environ, including FCT hospitals and federal government hospitals. For example, FMC, Federal Medical Center in Jabi, National Hospital, the Teaching Hospital, Kefi, Federal Medical Center, the Police Hospital, Defense Headquarters, the Naval Hospital. They are all part of these 20 hospitals. We selected a surgeon, a physician, and a nurse from each hospital, so we build their capacity on what to do and on time, so that these patients don't lose their limbs. That's what we've been doing for the past 3 days.
Okay, let's take a look at lifestyle now, because we know diabetes is a disease of lifestyle, and our people have a mindset that when you indulge in factors, those things, those actions, those habits that really, predispose people to diabetes and other non-communicable diseases, oblivious of the danger. It is rather seen as a status sin or thing of I don't know. There's this wrong mindset about the whole thing.
Well, what we need is a lot of sensitization, like what you are doing now. So the media has a lot of role to play in sensitizing Nigerians that there's a need for a reorientation. There's a need for a behavior change. That some of the beliefs we have, that the heavier you are, the more command the more respect you command, that, when you add excess weight, you're only inviting trouble, because for every height, there's an ideal weight. And once you allow your weight to get beyond what that height is meant to carry, then that is the beginning of diabetes, that's the beginning of hypertension, and its consequences, stroke, heart attack, and so on. So, for me, in this country, I think the cheaper option we have is prevention, but it requires a lot of reorientation and sensitization.
Parents take children to
yes,
eat junks.
Parents also need to be, to really get awareness, because the diabetes prevention project I did in 20 secondary schools in the FCT here, that I saw, you could see a child, a 12-year-old child in GS1 or in GS2 weighing 100 kilograms. That child is dying slowly, but the parent does not know. What is in the mind of the parent is that he or she is affluent, and the child is showcasing the affluence. So that's the problem. And you find out that even schools that are day schools, that the parents have an opportunity to prepare something healthy for the child to take at school, it's easier to give money. When you get there, buy a fizzy drink, get a donut. So these things, these convenience foods, they are high in salt, they are high in sugar, they are high in bad fat. They kill us slowly. Unfortunately, we love them because they are convenient. But it's part of the reorientation that we need, that we are talking about.
Okay, on a final note, Prof, there's also this wrong, erroneous impression that diabetes is all about too much sugar in the body. That is when you consume too much sugar that you become diabetic.
Well,
can you clarify that?
Yes, it is not about too much sugar. It is about how much total calorie you take in. Yes, of course, too much sugar is not good, because too much sugar, what it does, particularly things that taste sweet when we put it in our mouth, they contain what we call refined sugars. Refined sugars are sugars in their most easily absorbable form. So the moment you swallow it, it runs to the blood to spike up the blood sugar. You see, the pancreas does not like spikes in blood sugar, because what it means, once it identifies blood sugar is high, it pushes insulin. It pushes insulin down to up to bring it down. But you see, if you harass the pancreas like that, you push those cells too much, they get exhausted early. And when they get exhausted, there's no coming back. Diabetes shows up. Okay? So it has to do with the total calorie. And that's why we say, as we age, people need, because of the metabolic changes that occur in the body, people need to step down the amount of, food. The portion size needs to go down.
All the heavy food,
yes, all the heavy.
Yam, the eba,
people need,
all of
not
that
they won't eat again because they are our foods, but the size.
Okay.
The size should be small, because you see, as we age, the body metabolism slows down. So we need to eat less and be more active. So the pounded yam a 20-year-old will eat and burn it out there, A 50-year-old can't afford to take that because he's not going to burn it out. So we need to step down, you know, and be more active as we age if we want to prevent these lifestyle diseases.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Anoma, for making our time to come on Health Options.
Thank you very much.
All right. Let's now go over to our Nature's Corner to see and know those foods and plants available for the management of diabetes.
Here you have ogele, which has some powerful antioxidants that can be used in the management of diabetes. You are hereby warned not to go straight and start dissolving this leaf and start using it on your own. There is some procedures you have to take it through before you get to that level. Here we have the zogale leaf, zogale, moringa oleifera, in the native traditional name of zogale. The leaves are very, very powerful. They have up to 100 milligram worth of vitamin C, and you know, with that level, it's already an antibiotics. There are all kinds of mixed infections in diabetes, and it has the capacity to also lower sugar level. Next, before me, I have an array of products. Samia here in Hausa. Ewedu, usually I do them in combination with okra leaves to get one of the most potent mixture that can prevent diabetes and other related diseases. They have very strong anti-inflammatory, anti-sugar reduction effect in the body. Red pepper, which has been used in combination with pineapple, in combination with apple, and in combination with some other products to make a product that can cure big diabetic ulcer on the leg that refuses to heal. Such ulcers can be stopped and the leg will not be amputated. This is on record because there's no record like that anywhere in the world. We cannot talk about diabetes without making reference to Vennonia amygdalina, otherwise called bitter leaf. Bitter leaf is the chief of staff in the treatment of diabetics. It has the capacity, when you flow it from the mouth down to the various organs, it clears it. It detoxifies any sugar-like elements that are there, carbohydrates, that leads to excessive sugar that causes diabetics in the system. Ginger does not work directly. It works when it is combined with some other products to bring out diabetic effect. Now we have corn. You may hear that sucrose and other kinds complicates diabetes. But when we have red, yellow corn and white corn, with their unique combinations, you have the capacity to reduce weight. So when this is combined in a usual way, I want listeners, you don't go on your own and start buying these things from the market. You come to us for advice, and we'll give you the rightful advice at the combinations you need. And this is for you to respect your kitchen, so that all those things you see, they have medicinal effect. You do not just treat them anyhow. Alligator pepper, when samia is done, alligator pepper comes in, spinach comes in, then you form a very formidable material that reduces sugar. And we have spoken about cure of glaucoma and cataract. They are related to diabetes. Since this products combination has the capacity to stop diabetes, they also have the capacity to reverse glaucoma and diabetes for the same reason that their combination brings sugar level to normal. Water leaf, very, very powerful in reducing sugar level. It does not do this alone. It does this in a combination form with bitter leaf and co. It brings the sugar level to normal. It's a very, very powerful leaf. As for garden egg, it's very, very powerful when we combine the different colors. This is green. There is the yellow type. There is the white type. What I do, I combine Combine the three of them to bring sugar level to its needs.
Welcome back from Nature's Corner. It should also interest you to know the latest technology in diabetes management.
This is the insulin pump. Insulin pump is considered as an artificial pancreas. You have a reservoir and you have a quick set. So you have to put it inside there, and then with that aspect, you don't need to take any injection. You don't need to take any injection. You don't need to take any medications. And you could be able to eat any food that you need to eat. And you will not develop any complication. And this is the latest device invented by the science at this very moment to control, eliminate, and virtually complication-free diabetes. Anything to save life sometimes is very, very expensive. And the government has to come in. Those people who could not afford to buy them, now the government has to come in. In the United States, it's covered by health insurance. I've been using this one here for almost 20 years. The government of the United States is taking care of it. This is pen, insulin pen. Now, then another one in here, this is Lentus. Lentus is a long-active insulin. And this is a short-active insulin. This is a basal rate. You have to put it and it will work for 24 hours. This insulin pump has about 99.9% to control diabetes, and you may not develop complications.
It is common to hear people say, I am diabetic, and as such, I avoid sugary foods. One other thing experts advise diabetics never to joke with is the first meal of the day, breakfast. We take more of those health tips.
There are certain things that you can do to help you, make you healthier, and also reduce the likelihood of developing type 2 diabetes in the future. And those actions has to do with your lifestyle. You look at it, so what we eat and also how active we are, because those two things are very, very important to keep us healthy. It is recommended that you make sure that the children are active in school, and also as an adult that you're also active. You need at least 30 minutes of vigorous exercise at least 5 times in a week. That is about 150 minutes of activity every week. That is minimum. And that is what is shown to help reduce the chances of developing type 2 diabetes. In terms of your food intake, what is It's recommended is that you try and avoid refined sugar, refined carbohydrates, cut down fizzy drinks, cut down sugary drinks, and also make sure that you have eat lots and lots of vegetables and also fruits. If you smoke, it is highly recommended that you stop. And in terms of alcohol, to cut down on your alcohol intake. So I must also point out that there is also type 2 diabetes tend to run in families, and if you know that in your family you have maybe a brother or a sister or an auntie or parents have suffered from type 2 diabetes, it is very important that you go and check yourself, because the diabetes sometimes doesn't give any symptoms or signs, although the common signs is, you feel very thirsty, you pass lots of urine, you develop recurrent infections, but in some cases you don't feel anything at all. And what we are noticing is that in the majority of cases, most people are diagnosed by chance. So if you have family history of diabetes, then it's important that from time to time you go to be checked out. Also, if already you've been diagnosed with diabetes, it is very, very important that you receive your care from someone who is properly trained to deliver that care. It is important that you ask the person to ascertain that the person have the necessary training in order to deliver that care. Unfortunately, diabetes, once it develops, doesn't go away. So you have to look after yourself, take your medication, go for your regular checkups. Make sure that you check your feet at least every year. Make sure that you check your feet by a healthcare professional at least every year to check to see whether there is any complication developing, so that they will advise you on how to prevent further problems like foot ulcers or and other problems. It's also very important that you go for your regular eye check to make sure that you've not developed any complications to the eyes due to diabetes, because if the complications are picked up on time, they can be managed. Otherwise, there is that high risk of suddenly losing your eyesight from diabetes. Then the other issue is for your medication. If you have diabetes, it is very important that you take the medication that is prescribed for you. As children, make sure that they develop good, healthy life skills as they are growing up, being active and helping them to make right choices in relation to their food intake.
Hope you found those health tips on diabetes quite useful. According to Hippocrates, the father of medicine, natural forces within us are the true healers of disease. And that's our package on this week's edition of Health Options. A quick reminder that you can go to our YouTube channel to watch the upload of these and other episodes of the program. Email us for your comments and contributions at healthoptions@nta.gov.ng. My name is Rabi Abdullah. Many thanks for watching.